Hello and welcome to Google Docs tutorial number 3, formatting and working with images. The tutorial link will be in the assignment on Canvas. Simply click on it and it will bring you here. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a flyer, and we're going to base it off of a popular meme where people would make fake pet found posters and post them all over town as a joke. So that's what we're gonna duplicate one of those. Google Docs isn't the most full-featured desktop publishing app. It's certainly missing some features that Microsoft Word does, and even Microsoft Word can't hold a candle to like Microsoft Publisher or Adobe InDesign. That said, Google Docs does have some pretty strong capabilities for making simple projects for desktop publishing kind of applications. To that end, we're going to learn how to change margins, flip the orientation, mess around with some font and color shading, add borders to text, use the Format Painter, which is a really cool tool, and of course inserting images. In the tutorial, I have included the initial links for the files that you'll need. One of them goes to a Google Doc that you'll have to duplicate, and then the other one goes to the image, which you don't need yet, but I have it here at the top for your convenience. If you're working from the video, you don't have to scroll down to find the link. But if you're just following along in the text, the start image is actually later on in the tutorial as well. So the first thing you want to do is click here. I'm actually going to open it in a new tab. This is going to open it in Google Docs, and you'll probably see a button up here that says request permission to edit. Don't do that, because I will not grant it. This is my start file, so your job is to duplicate this file. So what you want to do is hit File and click on Make a Copy, and copy it to your whatever your ITECH folder. You can click on here to select a different folder, and I will call mine Flyer Tutorial. And hit OK. And that will open it in another new tab. We'll close the first one. And this is our new working copy that we can do whatever we like with. This is ours. I have the tutorial open in another browser over here, so I'm going to refer to that. The first thing I want to do is capitalize on as much paper real estate as possible. For reading purposes, usually you use 1-inch margins, but we want to use as much of that paper real estate as possible in order to, because we want big, bold fonts, and we want to, for people to be able to read it from a long distance away. So hit File, go down to Page Setup, and change all the margins to 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. The next thing you want to do is, most of the time you have a piece of paper and it's oriented like this, which we call portrait orientation. Instead, what we want to do is we want to flip it this way. So depending on the content that you usually, the content that your flyer is going to have, you may want to use a portrait orientation, but for our purposes we'll use landscape. Partly to get some practice distinguishing between the two, and partly to give us a it's going to fit with our content a little bit better. Hit OK, and you'll immediately notice, here let me zoom out just a little bit, that the paper is now wider than it is tall, and that the text is much more tucked up in the corner there. So when we make the text a lot bigger, it's going to take up a lot more of the white space. So the next thing I want to do is select everything. You can either just click and drag to select it all, so click here, drag to the top, or vice versa, or you can hit Control-A on your keyboard and that will select everything as well. Up here is the alignment tools. We want to center align it so everything pops into the middle. Next we want to highlight just the first paragraph. After centering it, yeah. Over here we can change the font. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave it as Arial. Arial's a nice font. It's perfectly serviceable for our needs. We're going to bump the size up to 48, however, for the first paragraph. And then we're going to select the rest of the document, everything but the first paragraph, and bump it up to 36. So now all of our text is big, it's all readable. We could probably just leave it like this, print 100 copies of this and post them all over town, and it would accomplish very little. So we're going to add some color, make things more interesting. First thing, A couple notes on color. Google Docs uses a pretty standard color palette. There's black to white going through gray, and then your very fully saturated, your main like really saturated colors that a computer can generate. Your pure red, your pure yellow, green, cyan, blue, and like magenta. This is magenta, and this is purple. What is this? Red berry. Yeah, so these are Google's colors. It's more, these ones are actually pretty harsh on the eyes, so we tend to stay away from the really fully saturated colors and use the more muted ones, the ones that have a little darker shading added, a little bit of black added to them, or the paler ones, because they have a nicer, softer feel than these really harsh, in-your-face, fully saturated colors. So what we're going to do first is we're going to select the second paragraph, the part that says female, no color. So cat found, female, no color, not very friendly. I think she might be scared. Not housebroken either, blah, blah, blah. We just want this second paragraph. So select that. You can triple click it to select it. And then select our text color. And we're going to go down here to this blue. So go to the pure blue and then go down to like the dark blue number 2. Because it's a dark one, but it still looks blue on the screen. Next, we'll select everything else below that. Not the first paragraph, just this, everything below that. And we'll change that to kind of a dark orange number 2. Now, maybe we'll remember from grade school the color wheel. Blue and orange are opposite each other, so they're considered complementary colors. So they actually go really nice together. They create a little bit of dynamic tension and interesting visual interest just by being so diametrically opposed to each other. You'll notice it a lot in movies that people will use colors that are complementary to each other to create a little bit of drama. And so that's what we're doing here. Now we want to do something with this first paragraph, and we're going to get a little bit fancy with this one. You want to make sure that you select the whole thing. So if you click on the left and drag all the way to the left, you'll make sure that you grab this white space here, which is actually the new paragraph marker, or the character that causes it to create a new paragraph. We can't see it because it's a non-printing character. It's a white space character, but it is there, and we want to make sure it gets selected. Otherwise, what we're going to do won't work quite correctly. The way that you can be sure is to just, if you click, it puts the insertion point in. If you double-click, it'll select a word. If you triple-click, it'll select an entire paragraph. So that's one way to make sure that it's working. Next, we go into the where was it? Format, paragraph styles, borders, and shading. That's the menu that we want. And when you click on this, it brings up a dialog, which allows us to create some borders. So these are kind of like these are like little on-off switches. I can create borders around the outside of a paragraph, and inside of, if this was a table, I could create borders like inside of all the cells. We're not going to do that though. We are just going to. It's not a table, so this one probably wouldn't do anything anyway. Or it might do something weird like put lines between the letters, which we also don't want. So we just want top, bottom, left, and right. We want all 4 borders around the paragraph to be there. We're going to make it a little bit thicker. Let's go 2.25 points and keep this as a solid line. We're going to change the border color to our dark blue again, dark blue 2, and our background color to dark orange 2. So this will be, the background will be a dark orange color, the border around it will be a dark blue color. Leave paragraph padding and hit apply, and watch what happens. Boom, we get this cool box around our text with a dark orange color filling it. If you didn't select this, the end of line character, the box will just be around the text, which can look nice, but in our case we want it to go all the way across as like a banner across the top of the page. Now, one thing you'd notice is if you printed this off, even if you printed it in color, this text is going to be hard to read. So we want to make it contrast with the dark background. And the easiest way to do that is just to make the text white. So select the first paragraph again, go to text color, and change it to white. And then now it's very easy to read even from a distance. Now let's say we want to apply all of the formatting on this paragraph to this paragraph. We want to make it so that this looks exactly like this. It would make it so we have these nice top and bottom bars bracketing all the other content on the flyer. There's a series of steps to do that. It was several steps. We had to change the font color, the background color, add a border, change the border size, change the colors of all those things. That's a tedious process, a multi-step process, and processes like that have a tendency to be prone to error. So instead, what we want to do is automatically apply all the formatting from this paragraph to this paragraph. To do this, we use the Format Painter tool. So it's right here, Paint Format. We highlight the text that we want to copy the format from. So copy the entire paragraph, or select the entire paragraph again. Go up here, grab this little paint roller thing, and then select the entire bottom paragraph. I'm going to undo that and repeat this procedure so that you can watch it again, or you can rewind the video or whatever. I'm just going to do it. Select the text, grab the paint roller, and then select this text. And that automatically applies all of the exact same formatting from the top paragraph to the bottom paragraph with no fuss, no muss, easy as pie. The next thing we want to do is add an image. So we're going to put it between this line and this line, so we need to add a line there. So click after the second paragraph and hit enter. That creates a new space, and in that space we're going to insert an image. So hopping back over to the tutorial page, you'll notice the start image link is still there. I'm going to right click on it and open it in a new tab. There's our possum. I'm sorry, it's a cat. It's not a possum. It's a possum. That's the joke. And I want to copy this to my system clipboard so I can easily paste it into the document. So I can right-click on this and hit Copy Image. This is the coolest way to copy anything out of Google or a web browser. You can just copy all of the image data into your system's clipboard so that it is easy to paste wherever you want. Going back to the tutorial, the flyer tab, right in here. Now, you can hit Paste here. You can right-click and hit Paste, but it will actually give you kind of an error sort of thing, which will prompt you to install a browser extension, which you may or may not want on your computer. It's fine. It'll allow you to use the right-click menu, but a far quicker way to do it is just to, on your keyboard, hold the Control key and hit the V key. So Control V pastes whatever is in your clipboard to that point. If you do want to use the right-click or the paste option inside the menu, you will have to install a browser extension because of how Google Docs interacts with the browser. It needs access to certain... It's kind of complicated. I'm not entirely certain how it all works, so maybe it's neither here nor there. So the picture is really big. Moving on. The picture is very large, and what it has done, it has pushed all of our text off onto other pages, and it takes up an entire page to itself. So now our document is 3 pages, and no one wants to read a 3-page flyer. So we'll make this smaller. Don't drag from the sides, because it'll smush it. Images are by default, their proportions are locked. So if you drag from the corner, you'll notice that all of the proportions are preserved, which is really handy and doesn't squish your image. So keep making it a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller until everything fits on one page. There we go. And there it is. So there's our image. Just for the fun of it, I do want to show a few other tools that involve image editing. You can click Image Options, and that brings up a sidebar, which allows you to do things like rotate. That's where the lock aspect ratio checkboxes as well. That's why it preserves its proportions when you pull from the corners. Text wrapping, you can change the way the text wraps around it, which is really handy because this is why people freak out when they're using a word processor and they try to move an image and it makes the whole document go out of whack. It's because they haven't figured out how to properly use text wrapping. And then you can actually recolor the image, do some sort of Andy Warhol type thing. And you can make other adjustments to it, change the transparency, make it brighter, darker, stuff like that. We don't need to do that. What we're going to do is we are going to crop it. This is a very dark image, so if you printed 100 copies of it off, you'd be spending quite a bit of toner. So I'm going to crop it a little bit so we don't use quite as much ink if we were going to, it's really just an excuse to show off the cool cropping tool. One thing that's cool about the crop tool is it doesn't actually erase any data. The data around this, all this other image data is still preserved. It's still in the file, but it won't print when you print it. So you hit enter, it finishes the crop of the image, and that's it. So that's the end of the tutorial. Once you reach this point, it is essentially complete, and you can submit it on Canvas as you did the other ones. Thank you, and have a great day.